Connie meticulously adjusted the rearview mirror and cast a worried glance at Tara, who, oblivious to the pressures of adult life, was fully immersed in the imaginary world of her doll. Outside, twilight began to cast long shadows on the streets paved with uneven cobblestones, as the demanding routine offered no respite. Connie lived a reality of endless races against time, trying to balance her taxi shifts with the need to take care of her daughter and manage the debts that seemed to multiply after the divorce. "Are you hungry, my love?" Connie's voice trembled slightly, trying to mask the fatigue weighing on her shoulders. Tara looked up, her face lit with innocence. "A little bit, Mommy. Can we eat after you finish work?" Connie smiled, warmed by her daughter's affection. "Of course, my dear. We'll find a nice place to eat something when I finish." As the taxi's radio crackled waiting for contact, the dispatcher's voice broke the static, bringing Connie back to the reality of the asphalt. "Connie, are you available for a ride on Olivera Street?" Connie's response was prompt, a reflex of her need to keep the steering wheel turning. "Affirmative, I'm on my way," she said, skillfully turning the wheel and heading to the requested location. Upon arrival, Connie immediately noticed the two passengers waiting. A man and a woman, both with tense expressions and somber attire, quickly entered the taxi. Connie greeted them with a professional nod and started driving, feeling curiosity prickle her mind. "Central Avenue, please," the man requested, casting a cautious glance at his companion. Connie watched through the rearview mirror, attentive to every gesture. The conversation between the two passengers, whispered and filled with urgency, gradually became audible. "Are you sure it's tonight?" The woman seemed anxious, almost trembling, as she adjusted a heavy bag on her lap. "Yes, everything is ready. Samuel suspects nothing," the man replied, his voice laden with a cold resolve that made Connie shiver. "But what if something goes wrong? What if he finds out?" The woman's concern was palpable, her hands intertwined in a gesture of nervousness. "It won't. We've planned everything meticulously. After today, we won't have to worry about him anymore." The man's tone was assertive, leaving little room for doubt. The mention of the name Samuel was enough to trigger a cascade of thoughts in Connie. Samuel? Could they be talking about Samuel Manson? The question echoed in her mind as she drove, trying to maintain focus on the road that now seemed to swirl with unfolding possibilities. Restlessness grew within her, increasingly difficult to ignore. Connie maneuvered the taxi with a constant buzz in her mind, filled with the words exchanged between the mysterious passengers. The conversation, though fragmented, had been clear enough to leave her uneasy. "They are plotting something against Samuel," she murmured, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The words seemed to echo in the empty taxi, gaining weight with each repetition. Beside her, Tara, noticing her mother's grim expression, leaned in with concern. "Are you okay, Mommy?" The girl's voice carried a mix of curiosity and worry that only a child could conjure with such innocence. Connie glanced quickly at Tara, forcing a smile she hoped would be comforting. Infine, dear. Just thinking about something, nothing important." Her tone tried to convey calmness, but her hands still trembled slightly on the wheel. The response seemed to satisfy Tara for the moment, who settled back in her seat, clutching her doll closer. However, Connie's mind was far from calm. As soon as she parked the taxi at the usual spot, she grabbed her cell phone with a firm decision. She dialed Patricia's number while watching Tara play through the rearview mirror. Pat. I need to talk to you. Can we meet tonight?" The urgency in her voice was palpable, even as she tried to stay controlled. On the other end of the line, after a brief moment of hesitation, Patricia responded with a warm voice that always brought some calm to Connie. "Of course, Connie. Shall we meet at our usual cafe at 7? "Perfect. See you then," replied Connie, hanging up the phone and releasing a sigh she didn't know she was holding. The rest of the day dragged on slowly for Connie. Each customer who entered the taxi was just a blur in her field of vision, each destination just a point on a map she knew all too well. Her mind was too busy trying to piece together the puzzle she had accidentally overheard. Samuel Manson, that name was familiar to her, but the implications of what was potentially at stake were disturbing. Finally, the hours passed, and twilight gave way to night as Connie arrived at the cafe where she and Patricia would meet. She sat at a table in the corner, a spot that offered a good view of the rest of the establishment and at the same time some privacy. It wasn't long before Patricia appeared, her face expressing a mix of concern and curiosity. "What's wrong, Connie? You seemed worried on the phone." Connie took a sip of her coffee before replying, choosing her words carefully. "Pat, I heard something in the taxi today. Something serious. The passengers were talking about doing something against a man named Samuel. I think they are planning something bad." Patricia frowned, absorbing the words. "Samuel Manson?" Connie nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. "Yes, it worries me. I don't know what to do." Patricia's concern was evident, and she held Connie's hand over the table. "This sounds serious. You should notify the police." Connie hesitated, her eyes betraying internal conflict. "I don't know. Samuel deserves to suffer for all he's done, but I don't want to get involved in something dangerous." "I understand your concerns," said Patricia, squeezing Connie's hand. "But maybe finding out more about these two is the first step. Perhaps they are on the right side of the story." Connie pondered this for a moment, her mind racing. "Maybe you're right. But how?" Patricia smiled, a glint of determination in her eyes. "I'll help you find out." In the cozy cafe lit by soft lights, Patricia waited for Connie, stirring a spoon in her cup of green tea. Her eyes were fixed on the door whenever someone entered, until finally, Connie appeared, looking visibly shaken. "What happened, Connie? You sounded extremely worried on the phone," Patricia inquired as soon as Connie sat down, noticing the evident tension in her expression. Connie sighed deeply before beginning to recount the events of that afternoon. "In the taxi today, I overheard a conversation from the passengers. They mentioned Samuel, Pat. It seems they are planning something against him," she confessed, fear and uncertainty tinting her voice. Patricia furrowed her brow, absorbing the gravity of the situation. "This sounds really serious, Connie. You should consider notifying the police." Connie shook her head, her eyes downcast. "I don't know. Samuel has caused a lot of suffering. In a way, he deserves to suffer for all he has done, but I don't want to get involved in something potentially dangerous. What if they drag me into this? What if it affects Tara?" "I understand your concerns," said Patricia, gently touching Connie's arm in a supportive gesture. "But maybe we shouldn't rush to call the police without more information. If they really are planning something against him, we need to understand the context better. Maybe these two are on the right side of the story." Connie looked at Patricia, pondering her words. "You're right. But how do we find out more about them? I don't even know where to start." Patricia smiled, a plan already forming in her mind. "Leave that to me. I have a friend at the City Hall who might have access to some records. We can start by checking who these people are and if they have any known connection to Samuel." Connie hesitated, but Patricia's determination was contagious. "All right, let's do this. But we have to be cautious, Pat. I don't want to make things worse." "Of course, we'll do everything discreetly," Patricia assured, taking a sip of her tea. "Tomorrow I'll talk to my friend and see what I can find out. In the meantime, try not to worry too much. We'll handle this together." Connie smiled weakly, grateful to have a friend like Patricia. "Thank you, Pat. I don't know what I'd do without you." The two spent the rest of the evening discussing potential scenarios and preparing for what might come. When they parted ways, Connie felt somewhat relieved, although the worry still hung like a shadow over her mind. In the following days, while waiting for news from Patricia, Connie tried to maintain a normal routine to not alarm Tara. Each customer who entered her taxi was a reminder of what was potentially at stake, and every street she drove down echoed the words heard on that fateful day. Finally, a message from Patricia arrived, bringing news that could change the course of their actions. "I found something, Connie. We need to meet." It was all it said, but it was enough to rekindle the flame of caution and curiosity in Connie. Thus, armed with new information, the two were about to dive deeper into an investigation that would reveal much more than they expected, a journey that would lead them to discover the true motives behind the whispered words in that taxi and perhaps even change the fate of several people, including their own. Connie and Patricia, armed with a list of potential connections and public records, spent several days immersed in a meticulous investigation. They scoured social media, consulted business records, and explored news archives in an attempt to understand who Deborah and Daniel Aguilar were. The task was arduous, and the night stretched on as they compiled information on an evidence board set up in Patricia's apartment. On a rainy afternoon, as the sound of raindrops hitting the window created a steady rhythm, Patricia, with a pile of papers in front of her, caught Connie's attention. "Look at this," she said, pointing to an old newspaper article. "Deborah and Daniel Aguilar. These names finally make sense." Connie leaned in, curious. "What did you find?" According to this article, they are siblings. Children of Jorge Aguilar, a businessman who was highly respected in the community before being abruptly discredited and driven to bankruptcy, Patricia explained, tracing the lines of the newspaper with her finger. Connie furrowed her brow, trying to connect the dots. "Jorge Aguilar. Wait, that sounds familiar." "Yes, I remember now," she exclaimed, a flash of memory crossing her face. "Samuel mentioned something about him once. He said Jorge was an old friend who had bad luck in business, but it always sounded more sinister than that." "Deborah and Daniel Aguilar," Patricia repeated slowly, absorbing the implications. "It seems they might be seeking revenge against Samuel for something related to what happened to their father." Connie sat down, weighing her words. "That explains the conversation I heard in the taxi. They're trying to settle scores with Samuel." Patricia looked at Connie, her expression serious and concerned. "This puts everything in a different perspective. Revenge can be dangerous. What are you going to do, Connie? Helping them could put you in a complicated situation." Connie sighed, feeling the weight of the decision on her shoulders. Torn pat. On one hand, Samuel truly deserves to pay for what he's done, but on the other, getting involved in something like this could be risky, especially as a mother to Tara. "I don't want anything to happen to us." Patricia nodded, understanding. "I get your concerns. But, Connie, you have an opportunity to do the right thing here. Maybe we can help them in a way that doesn't put us directly in the line of fire." Connie pondered, looking out the window at the gray sky. "Maybe you're right. We need a plan that keeps us safe and allows justice to be done." "Let's think of something together," Patricia said, placing a comforting hand on Connie's arm. "You're not alone in this." The two spent the rest of the afternoon discussing potential strategies, each more cautious than the last, until they finally decided that they needed to speak directly with Deborah and Daniel. It was a risky move, but they felt it was the only way to truly understand the Aguilar siblings' intentions and assess the best way to proceed. "I'll try to find them," said Connie, determined. "We need to hear their side of the story." "Be careful," Patricia warned. "You never know what to expect in situations like this." Connie nodded, feeling a mix of determination and nervousness. "I will be." And so, with a new goal in mind, Connie prepared for the next chapter of her journey, unaware that this meeting would not only bring more clarity but also challenge her convictions and the strength of her character in ways she could never have anticipated. Determined to clarify the situation, Connie spent days trying to contact Deborah and Daniel Aguilar. After several unreturned messages and calls, she finally received a concise response that set a meeting at a little-known cafe on the outskirts of the city, a place where few curious eyes would venture. Arriving at the agreed location, a simple establishment with a worn facade and fogged windows, Connie felt a mix of nervousness and determination. She entered, finding Deborah and Daniel already seated at an isolated table in the darkest corner of the cafe. Their expressions were reserved, but there was an underlying intensity in their eyes that did not escape Connie. "So, you're Connie," said Deborah with a soft yet firm voice, sizing up Connie with a cautious look. "We know you overheard our conversation in that taxi. Why did you want to meet us?" Connie took a seat opposite them, feeling the weight of each word she chose. "I want to understand better what you're planning. Samuel has caused a lot of suffering not only to me but to many others. If what you're doing is just, I want to help," she explained, her tone laden with a mix of anxiety and resolve. Daniel exchanged a look with Deborah before turning back to Connie, his posture slightly relaxed upon sensing the sincerity in her words. "We're trying to expose Samuel for all the harm he's done. He ruined our family, led our father to ruin and a premature death. We need someone from the inside, someone who can help us gather concrete evidence against him," Daniel revealed, his voice low, filled with barely contained pain. Connie took a deep breath, the moral dilemma and danger of the situation weighing on her. "I'm in. What exactly do you need me to do?" she asked, ready to commit despite the uncertainties she felt. Deborah looked at Daniel, who silently nodded before she responded. "We need you to help us access information that Samuel keeps guarded. He trusts you as a driver, not as someone who might threaten him. You could be our eyes and ears in places we can't access," Deborah detailed, outlining the plan they had in mind. Connie felt the gravity of the task, knowing that any misstep could not only jeopardize her safety but also that of her daughter, Tara. "I'll do what I can to help, but we need to be extremely cautious. I can't risk something happening to my daughter," she insisted, the maternal concern tinting every word. "We understand and respect that," said Daniel, offering a smile that tried to be comforting. "We'll plan every step together. Nothing will be done without your complete agreement." With the initial plan established, they spent a few more hours at the cafe, discussing details and strategies, each aware of the risks and the importance of what they were about to do. When they parted ways, a new alliance had been formed, based on a mutual desire for justice and redemption. Connie left the cafe with a renewed sense of purpose, though the apprehension never completely left her. She knew that the next steps would require courage and caution in equal measure, and as she drove back home, she reflected on the complexity of the path she had chosen to follow. In the weeks that followed the meeting at the cafe, Connie, Deborah, and Daniel worked tirelessly, weaving a network of meticulous strategies to unmask Samuel. The plan required precision, courage, and perfect synchronization, qualities each brought to the table with renewed determination every day. Deborah, with her deep knowledge of business intricacies and an innate ability to influence people, managed to infiltrate Samuel's inner circle. She used her charm and intelligence to access highly confidential documents that revealed dubious transactions and deals made in the shadows. "I got something big today," she announced at an evening meeting, displaying a USB drive containing files that could be key to Samuel's downfall. Meanwhile, Daniel, disguised as a maintenance worker, took every opportunity to observe and document Samuel's suspicious activities within the company. With a hidden recorder and a sharp attention to detail, he captured compromising conversations and secret meetings. "Samuel has no idea who I really am. He thinks I'm just another face in the crowd," he shared with a cautious smile during group updates. Connie played a crucial role, using her taxi to follow Samuel and his mistress, Brittany. She meticulously mapped their meetings, recording times, places, and any relevant interaction. Her taxi, a common vehicle on the busy city streets, proved to be the perfect disguise. Tara, her daughter, often accompanied her, oblivious to the gravity of her mother's missions. "Mom, this is like a detective movie, isn't it?" she said, laughing, while Connie agreed, hiding the tension behind a smile. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the tension among the three conspirators increased. They knew they were approaching the point of no return. At one of the last meetings before the decisive day, Deborah looked at her companions, anxiety shining in her eyes. "Today is the day," she declared with a tremulous but determined voice. "We have everything we need to expose Samuel. Are you ready?" Connie nodded, feeling a mix of fear and anticipation. "Let's finish this. Samuel won't harm anyone anymore." Daniel adjusted the equipment he was carrying, his expression serious. "After today, everything changes. We'll make every second count." With that, the trio prepared for the final confrontation. Each knew that the following hours could change their lives forever, but they were willing to take the risk to ensure that justice prevailed. The plan was in motion, and there was no turning back. As they headed to their posts, Connie's thoughts turned to Tara and the safer world she hoped to offer her daughter after the storm passed. With the determination of someone fighting not just for justice but also for the future of her family, she prepared to face whatever came next. The afternoon was tense as Connie strategically positioned her taxi outside the upscale office building where Samuel and his mistress, Brittany, were supposed to meet. She monitored every movement in the area, ready to alert Daniel and Deborah of any changes. Inside the taxi, the radio was off, the air charged with anticipation. Connie spoke softly into her cell phone, keeping Daniel informed. "Samuel is coming out of the building now," she whispered, watching Samuel's figure through her binoculars. On the other end of the line, Daniel, who was hidden in a side entrance of the building, confirmed he received the message. "Understood. I'm going to intercept him." Adrenaline surged as Daniel positioned himself in the hallway, waiting for the exact moment to confront Samuel. His heart raced faster when he saw Samuel approaching, accompanied by Brittany, both laughing carelessly. "You didn't expect to see me here, did you, Samuel?" Daniel emerged from the shadows, blocking Samuel's path with an imposing presence. Samuel stopped abruptly, his smile disappearing as he recognized Daniel. His complexion turned pale, and he stammered, "Daniel? What are you doing here?" Daniel held firmly a folder filled with incriminating documents and photos. His voice was cold and calculated as he responded, "The time has come, Samuel. The time has come to pay for what you've done to my family and the many others you've destroyed with your greed." Samuel tried to retreat, looking for an escape route, but his legs seemed too heavy to move. "This is a misunderstanding, Daniel. I can explain." "There's nothing to explain," Daniel cut him off, stepping closer. "We have all the evidence against you." He waved the folder to emphasize his words. At that moment, Brittany, realizing the gravity of the situation, turned to flee, but Deborah emerged from another corridor, intercepting her efficiently. "Not so fast, Brittany. You're also involved in this," said Deborah, gripping Brittany's arm firmly. Brittany tried to wriggle free, but Deborah was unyielding. "Did you think you could escape the consequences forever?" Deborah spoke while keeping Brittany under control, waiting for reinforcements. Samuel, seeing that he was cornered and with no way out, looked desperately at the two, his face a mask of fear and regret. "Please, can we resolve this another way?" he pleaded, his voice trembling. However, Daniel was resolute. "It's too late for negotiations. Justice will be served today." As the situation unfolded in the hallway, Connie continued to keep watch outside, ready to act if necessary. The operation they had planned for weeks was finally coming to fruition, and every second seemed charged with the weight of their past actions and the imminent consequences. This confrontation marked the climax of their long struggle for justice, and as they waited for the arrival of the police, who had already been alerted, everyone knew that the revelations of that day would change their lives forever. When the police sirens pierced the afternoon silence, the tense atmosphere in the hallway gave way to swift and effective action. The officers, already briefed by Daniel about the situation, arrived ready to act. They moved with precision, handcuffing Samuel and Brittany, who were still trying to comprehend how quickly their world had crumbled. Samuel, pale and visibly shaken, cast pleading looks at the police officers while trying in vain to negotiate his freedom. "I can explain everything. This is a big misunderstanding," he stammered, But his words fell on deaf ears in the face of the compelling evidence that Daniel and Deborah presented. Brittany, in turn, was visibly distressed, her attempts to escape thwarted and her complicity exposed. As she was led out of the building, her gaze met Deborah's, a mix of fear and regret passing through her eyes. The local media, already alerted by an anonymous tip, quickly made their presence known. Cameras and microphones captured every moment as reporters broadcasted live the downfall of one of the city's most influential businessmen, outlining a narrative of corruption and betrayal that had devastated countless lives. Amidst the chaos, Connie watched closely, keeping Tara safe by her side. The girl looked on with curiosity, still not fully understanding the magnitude of the events. When Connie saw Samuel being led to the police van, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "Finally, justice," she murmured, her words loaded with relief and satisfaction. She hugged Tara, who returned the embrace, feeling her mother's tension dissipate. Daniel approached Connie, a smile of gratitude on his face. "You were incredible, Connie," he said, looking at her with admiration. "We couldn't have done it without your help. Your courage and determination were crucial." Connie smiled, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We did this together," she replied. "It was the right thing to do." Deborah joined them, her face showing signs of relief for the first time in weeks. "Today, we've struck a blow against corruption and injustice. This changes everything." The three shared a moment of complicity, aware that they had altered the course of their own lives and many others. As the crowd dispersed and reporters continued to broadcast the details of the scandal, they knew there was still much to be done, but this was a promising start. With a sense of duty fulfilled, Connie looked up at the darkening sky, contemplating the future. A new chapter was about to begin, not just for her but for everyone involved. With Samuel and Brittany facing the consequences of their actions, it was time to rebuild and move forward, one step at a time. The weeks following the confrontation were a period of profound transformation for Connie, Daniel, and Deborah. With Samuel behind bars, the legal proceedings initiated by Daniel and Deborah allowed them to reclaim properties and assets that had been fraudulently usurped by Samuel over the years. For Connie, the victory was even sweeter as she regained the home she had lost in the bitter divorce, a home that symbolized much more than just material property. It was a haven for her daughter Tara and the start of a new life. On a beautiful sunny day, as Connie and Daniel walked through the newly bloomed garden of the restored house, Daniel stopped and, with a relieved smile, said, "It's a new beginning, Connie. For all of us." Connie returned the smile, feeling the truth of those words resonate deeply. Yes, a new beginning. And a second chance. In the distance, Tara played in the garden, her laughter filling the air with joy and hope. The girl ran among the flowers, completely oblivious to the challenges they had faced, fully living in the present moment. Watching her, Connie felt immense gratitude not only for everything they had achieved but also for the promising future unfolding before them. As Connie and Daniel watched Tara play, he took her hand, bringing unexpected comfort. "By your side, I feel we can face any challenge that comes our way," he said, his eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and affection. Connie, moved by the sincerity in his words, squeezed Daniel's hand. "Together, we are stronger," she replied, a sense of partnership strengthened by the adversity they had overcome together. And so, in the twilight of this turbulent phase, as the sun set casting a golden glow over the garden, a startling detail came to light, marking the true plot twist of the story. Daniel, in a gentle but firm tone, revealed something Connie did not expect. "Connie, there's something I need to tell you. When we started this fight, I already knew who you were and the role you would play in all of this. I planned everything from the beginning, knowing we would need someone with your strength and courage to confront Samuel." Connie, surprised by the revelation, looked at Daniel, trying to assimilate the implications of his confession. You planned all this?" Daniel nodded, apprehensive. "Yes, but it wasn't manipulation. It was a choice based on admiration for your resilience and belief that together, we could correct so many wrongs. I knew the risks, but I also knew you were the key to the justice so many hoped for." Connie, though shaken by the revelation, understood the complexity of Daniel's choices. She realized that, despite the initially hidden motivations, the outcome had been true redemption for all of them. With this new understanding, Connie faced Daniel, a new type of determination shining in her eyes. Then, let's ensure that this new chance we have is not wasted. Together, facing the sunset and the revealed truths, Connie and Daniel prepared to navigate the unknown waters of the future, now not only as allies in the fight against injustice but as partners on a path of new beginnings and unlimited possibilities. With each challenge they would face, they had each other, and that was a promising start to any story.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.